and welcome to another episode of Kickstart Connections. I am your host, Lucinda Underwood. I'm so excited to bring another guest episode to you today, and joining me in the studio is Katie Mahoney of We Are Young. Katie, welcome to Kickstart Connections.
Thanks, Lucy, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I listen, I can't wait to dive into our conversation because, you know, I know a little bit about We Are Young. I think it's an amazing concept. Very, very exciting to get started and learn more. And I mean, I guess let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
You know, why don't you tell me a bit about how, you know, what We Are Young is, what you do, and how that idea first came about?
Yeah. So We Are Young, for those who don't know, is a charity that grants unfulfilled wishes to seniors. But the reason why we grant wishes is to really change the way society views, values, and supports our oldest generation. And I can dive into more around that. But as it relates to how things got started, I will take you back almost a decade ago. I was in my last year of university, and I'll preface by saying that I grew up with grandparents that lived into their mid-90s. And they lived in central Halifax. So they had a revolving door of love and support. You would drive by their house, there was always someone in the driveway. And I just grew up with this perception that all seniors were cared for and supported the way that they were.
Right.
I didn't know any different. And it wasn't until I was in my last year of school that I had met this senior. And Lucy, she had this pep in her step. She had this spunk about her. And I saw her bringing baked goods to staff members at a new job I started.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, this woman's amazing. Bring baked goods in for everyone else. And then I kid you not, a week later, I saw her volunteering at a homeless shelter. And so I thought, oh my goodness, this woman is very selfless and continues to do other things for other people. And I really wanted to get to know her more.
Yeah.
But I was a stranger to her. I was a little shy to ask her if she wanted to spend time with me. And life would have it that within the same month of knowing her, I was nominated through a Facebook challenge to do an act of kindness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And so this Facebook challenge was a pay it forward. So someone could pay for your coffee in the Tim Hortons lineup, et cetera, et cetera. So it was up to you of how you wanted to be challenged. And I thought this is a great way to spend time with her. So I asked her if she wanted to hang out with me, if she wanted to get her nails done and do whatever else she wanted to do that day. And with a smile on her face, she said yes. And from that moment of spending the day with her, I learned about her hardships, her personal sacrifices, her perseverance. But most importantly, that was the day I learned that it was the first time in years someone made a day about her. And that was when I realized that my perception on how seniors were supported and cared for in society was not actually reality. And the big question at hand was, how many other seniors are actually very much experiencing life similarly to Eleanor, where she really does feel lonely, isolated, wish she had more companionship. And then I asked an even bigger question. I was 21 years old at the time. I've had countless bucket list items under my belt at such a young age. I couldn't fathom the idea of maybe, you know, this generation did sacrifice so much that they never prioritized their own dreams and aspirations, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe seniors still have unfulfilled wishes and dreams that they would like to see come fulfilled. And it turns out there are many. And I want to share that this all happened at a very similar time. The same place that I was working at, I had just met Cara Chisholm, the other co-founder of We Are Young. And I remember when I first met her, we were in the back of a kitchen, and I was just training her on the food that was going through the restaurant. And she was studying gerontology at the Mount, so very fitting. And I remember asking her, what do you want to do with your life? And she looked at me and she said, I just want to help people, and I have a huge soft spot for seniors. And I knew in that moment that inevitably she would come on this journey, and in a very serendipitous way, we became business partners. We formed a really amazing group of community support that essentially has been the foundation of this organization's success a decade later.
What an incredible story. There's so many things that you just said there as well that I want to pick up on because number one, I think, loneliness in the senior members of our community, it's a big issue, right? It really is. I don't think there is, enough support out there. And I think they will almost become the forgotten generation.
That's exactly it.
Right? So I think what you're doing is just wonderful.
Appreciate it.
And I'm also wondering as well, like, what are some of the wishes that you've made happen for people?
Yeah.
Can you give? I know we didn't have this question noted down. I'm throwing this out to you, but I'm like, because I was looking through your website prior to you coming in for the interview, and I was seeing some of the stories on there, and honestly, my heart just swelled. Because I just think it's such a fantastic thing that you're doing. But yeah, tell us about maybe just a few that might come to mind. Some of the wishes that you've provided.
Yeah. So first, I'll start by saying there's 3 types of wishes that we grant, and they are fulfilling a lifelong dream, which is the most popular. And wonderful examples of that could be, watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade since you were 5 years old on your television screen and always hoping that one day you get to see it live. So we sent a woman to sit front row at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I believe that was in 2019. We've had another woman whose wish has always been since she was a little girl to ride on a Zamboni, but she didn't because she was discouraged because back in her day, that was considered a boy's sport. Right?
Yeah.
And only boys.
Times have changed a lot.
Have changed a lot.
Yeah.
And she held on to that dream for years. And I still remember when she got on that Zamboni, or when she got off that Zamboni, she looked at me with the biggest smile on her face and tears in her eyes saying, I only wish my parents could see me riding this. This is the best experience of my life. To going to your very first sporting event, whether we have a lot of Toronto Maple Leafs fans and Habs fans and, Blue Jays fans. So that, oh my God, there's so many wishes. Another type of wish that we grant is reliving a hobby or a passion that a senior once had.
Okay.
But due to maybe age-related barriers, they're now unable to fulfill or go back to that moment in time without a little bit of support. And so that could be anything from a gentleman who always used to rock hound, if you're familiar with what rock hounding is.
I'm not, so explain it to me.
Okay, so I didn't really know much about it either.
Okay,
but
that makes me feel better for not knowing.
It's really rock collection and discovering the types of rock specimens by cracking them open. So you would go along a shoreline, you would find different types of rocks, and it was kind of a collection hobby. And so there was this one place this gentleman always used to go, and it was a trek down this cliff. And as he got older, he had physical limitations, and that prevented him from getting there almost, I think, 2 decades. And it wasn't until his partner saw our organization on the news or something and thought, well, maybe this organization can help. And it was really just us being innovative and getting him there by boat instead of having to make that physical trek. And I have to share this wish with you. 2 weeks ago, really to put things into perspective, this woman named Carol, she was a single mother of 2. She worked on a farm that catered to children with disabilities, and it was a horse farm. And she had so many wonderful memories of horses and riding horses. It was a big part of her life. And about 10 years ago, she had an aneurysm that led to a brain bleed. And she had a stroke where she became paralyzed on the right side of her body.
Wow.
And then she also, because of that, she became an amputee, leg amputee. And she never thought she'd get on a horse again. But sure enough, we were able to find a farm in Ontario that caters to people who have physical limitations just like Carol. And almost a decade later, she got back on a horse.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it kind of came full circle in that moment back to where she used to work. And so that's those are great examples of fulfilling hobbies or passions that seniors once had. And our last one is reigniting with family members or meeting family for the very first time. We know that distance can be really difficult, especially for traveling. And it is a great honor to witness, in some occasions, grandparents getting to meet their grandchildren for the very first time. So those are some of so many we've granted. I think we're on number 63. We're granting.
That was going to be my question as well. It's like, okay, over the years, how many? Like, that was 63. Wow.
We got started. We really, it took a lot of groundwork to get things started. So we really started granting wishes near the end of 2017. Obviously, the pandemic put us in a little bit of an unfavorable position as it relates to our big wishes. But very proud to say that we doubled our wish granting number by 50% last year. So we granted 18 wishes compared to 12 in 2022. And this year we have the trajectory of granting 30 wishes.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So by 2026, we're hoping to grant 100 wishes annually. That's our goal.
Wow. Well, honestly, I'm just kind of, again, there's so many things I'm thinking, because when you were going kind of over those wishes as well, it's always, I think we sometimes think that, a wish is going to be something huge, right? It's going to be a big trip, or it's going to be something kind of really big. But it's not always that way. Like you say, it could be hobbies that somebody has enjoyed throughout their life and they're now, not as able to do it. But how much that means to that person. Like, I mean, it must be a very rewarding job for you and Cara as well.
Yeah. It's so interesting. No wish is the same. You know, the reason why seniors want to do their wishes, whether, you see a few we grant a lot of helicopter wishes.
I saw some of those on the website. Yes.
But they're all very unique as to why they want to go and do it. But yeah, it is really rewarding. I think it's also very inspiring to see a generation have something happen for them for a chance,
right,
and kind of see that sparkle in their eye that, wow, my dreams can actually still come true despite being 70, 80, and 90 years old. And I can't tell you enough, Lucy, how much these wishes, not only when the wishes happen, but what transpires after the wishes on their mental and physical well-being, their self-confidence enhances. It's really creating a transformative experience that goes beyond the immediate wish. And words just can't describe how impactful each and every one is.
And even the connections that are made through that too, right? I mean, I'm sure that you're, through the work that you've done over the years, you're kind of building a community too.
Yes.
And that is something that is so needed and so important.
Yeah. And I think the reality is we're all going to get older.
The lucky ones will.
Yeah,
so I always say that. Yeah.
And they say that too, if you're lucky to get older. And so that is a really big part of why we do what we do. We're not only just about granting wishes for seniors, but we're really trying to visually showcase what seniors are capable of if we supported them more. So how do we rethink that societal perception that's so deeply ingrained in us of what they're capable of achieving? How do we create a new world where we uplift and inspire seniors and integrate them more into society for the generation who's currently there, but for the generations who will inevitably get there if they're lucky? Right. So building communities and awareness is a huge part of why we do what we do as well.
I love that. Let's talk about the future then for a second.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned about, you've got your goals to kind of reach 100 wishes in a year. But what else is in your vision of the future for Way? What do you guys got going on?
Yeah. So right now we are within Atlantic Canada, and we also are serving seniors in Ontario. And for us, we have a lot of work to do in Canada in the way that we support and show up for seniors. Right. And so our big goal, especially for the next 3 years, is we want to get to 100 wishes so that our voice, our broader narrative gets a lot louder, so that we become a household name where people start really rethinking the way they show up for seniors in their own life, in their own community. And I like to think that I know our organization will be a household name across Canada. We are very much taking an innovative approach to customize and cater to seniors' emotional needs in a way that I don't think is being practiced in Canada. And I think us as an organization are really proud to be that trailblazer. And, we are going to get to a point where we're eventually across Canada, and we're excited.
I love that because, like you say, it's that shift of mindset, isn't it? And I think by bringing attention to what you're doing, it is going to change people's mindsets around it, and it is going to bring awareness. Because I think that's probably part of the reason that we have these issues. It's lack of awareness. It's not that people don't want to support the older generation, but it's lack of awareness of what is needed.
Yeah, and what we show the world. Like, how do we perceive seniors as it relates to imagery, or in movies, or in production? Like, just how do we start collectively being more mindful in the way that we're showcasing that generation? Because guess who's watching? The up and coming generation. And I think we all have a role to play in this shift. And so, yes, we are not afraid to get loud and advocate for a generation who deserves a platform.
100%, 100%. The next question that's on the tip of my tongue, and I'm sure people listening are going to be wondering as well, after kind of listening to all of that and really sort of understanding what it is that you guys are doing, how can we support? How can people support, and how can people help you, spread that message?
I think first and foremost, I encourage anyone who's listening to this podcast, the first thing that you can do that does not cost money, and that will buy you back time with wisdom, is finding a senior in your life to spend more time with, having more engaging conversations. It's so interesting. I feel a lot of people, because there's such a generational gap, I find a lot of people have difficulty connecting with seniors. And I really don't know why. I think maybe because what do you talk about when there's such a disconnect between generations? But it's so interesting. I encourage you to start the conversation with, what are some dreams and aspirations you have? Start that conversation. And I love why we grant wishes, because the reality is wishes is very much something everyone can relate to.
Right.
It's something that bridges all generations, because we all have this one life to live. We all have, or want to think that we have dreams and goals and things to accomplish in life. And so it's a really great connected piece. Right. So first and foremost, I would encourage anyone to start a conversation with a senior, or ask them. Seniors are very selfless and humble and never ask for anything. And to be there to start the conversation of, what can I do for you? All of these are great starting points to building a stronger relationship and connecting with a forgotten generation. So that's number one. Number two is to follow us on social media. We have amazing wish stories that can only go as far as our network puts out. So if you can share our wish stories and follow along, that's a huge help. And of course, being a charity, that obviously requires donations, monetary and in kind. Anything goes a long way. So if you're, in a position to donate, of course, that option is available on our website. So these are all wonderful ways to definitely get involved and push our mission and vision forward.
I love that. And, so just if you could just shout out for me kind of your website, social media handles, just so, because I'm sure, again, there's going to be people that are going to want to get in touch. So how could they reach you?
Definitely. So our website is super straightforward. It's just weareyoung.ca. You can follow us on Instagram is weareyoung_way. And then LinkedIn and Facebook are just We Are Young Association. So it should be And they're all linked to our website. So if you go through our website channel, you'll be able to easily access them.
Great. And I will also make sure all of these links go in the show notes as well.
Okay.
So anyone listening to the episode can
Yay.
just click and go from there.
Awesome.
Okay, and one last question that I can't believe I forgot to ask. But for anyone out there who wants to apply to have a wish fulfilled, or they want to reach out and have some support, how would they go about doing that?
Great question. So any senior who resides in the areas we serve, so Atlantic Canada, Ontario, if you're listening, or you have a loved one in these regions, they have to be 7 years of age. They have to have an experience-based wish, so we don't do anything materialistic. It must be a wish that has meaning behind it, and there needs to be a reason why it can't be fulfilled on the senior's own behalf of why they need us. And so that's kind of the preliminary stage. And then from there, it's a pretty straightforward process. But anyone who is listening and, is thinking of someone immediately who might have a wish, again, I encourage you, if you do not think a senior has a wish, just ask them. You will be very surprised.
It's a very powerful question.
It's a very powerful question, and one we often don't ask an older generation. But I've had many people come to us saying, I can't believe I waited this long to ask mom or dad if they've had an unfulfilled wish, because I just assumed there is nothing else that they've wanted to do. And that is the wrong assumption. So if you know of someone, if they have a wish, head to our website. Under wishes, you will see our application, and it's super easy. Just fill it out online and we'll be in touch.
Amazing. Love that. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Katie.
Susie.
Pleasure chatting with you today. And that's all we have time for today. But don't forget, if you like this episode, please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share. And you can follow us online at Kickstart Connections Podcast. See you next time.